My name's Markku Kostamo. I serve as the Director of Development with Sanctuary Mental Health Ministries. I've lived with my family and community for the past 15 years, and that's been a real blessing for us. I've served as an executive in the charitable sector for over 20 years. I started as a consultant in the environmental consulting world. I worked with other charities, including Arasha Canada, where I served as the executive director for 17 years. Founded it along with my wife and some other friends. I have bipolar disorder, and I'm in recovery, and I'm grateful for that. During that whole season of serving as an executive, I struggled with symptoms of depression and lived openly with that, was on medication, but it turned out that I was actually misdiagnosed, and that made life chaotic. I actually was so active up until my early 30s, exercising a lot, competitive cross-country skiing and running and canoeing and whitewater paddling. That actually kind of pushed off the bipolar disorder and depression. Right before I was diagnosed with bipolar, there was a 3-month season where my energy just kind of kept rising. And then you add in like a stressful work-related event. And then I actually went on a really adventurous canoe trip. And so that ramped me up even more. So it was sort of like a perfect storm for a significant manic episode. And that's what happened. You're not really fully aware of what everybody else is aware of. Over a period of a month, friends and my wife Leah and a mentor were really watching. They did an intervention and took me to the hospital. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 1 and hospitalized. My experience of that journey into being diagnosed was outwardly not a big deal, and then part of me being completely freaked out. I knew what the stigma was like, so it was just this complete fear of a diagnosis. Later, my friend said to me that I knew something significant was wrong because you were talkative and happy and fine, you're making small talk, and everybody else was in tears. So that sort of gives you a little window into what mania is like. My journey of being diagnosed and accepting that, it wasn't an instant journey. It took 3 or 4 days to come to the place of, I accept my diagnosis, and to identify with these other people in the hospital. I remember then starting to engage more openly. Being in the hospital was really helpful in that way. My faith was vibrant, a part of my journey. And as I came out of that hospitalization and spent time in therapy, spiritual direction, with friends, conversations, I felt held by faith and community and church. But there was also anger, not just anger at others, but there was anger at God. I came to understand that God could handle my anger. I felt completely free to express those emotions to God, to ask big questions, to doubt, to question faith, and to come back in a new way to reconcile my experience. Part of my journey was a second hospitalization because I was suicidal and experiencing significant depression. That journey was harder because it comes with a more clear memory. Post-mania, you don't necessarily remember everything. But depression is much more of a solo journey where you're not impacting others, but you are potentially impacting yourself. The back end and journey out of suicidality is a hard, long road, coming to a new understanding of being loved by the Creator. And then ultimately coming to a new understanding of what it meant to love myself. And that's been a really healing journey in the midst of lots of helpers, spiritual direction, mentors, therapists. I've been surrounded by people that have helped me along the journey. It's not a solo, triumphant journey, but this stumbling journey in the midst of community. Community is core to recovery. Community provides a sense of being held, being encouraged and supported, but also it's those people who are closest to you that this whole journey has been the hardest on. So there's a sense of real grace in that when I think about how welcoming people are in the way both my family is healing and engaging, and then community members as well. What's helpful for me in my mental health journey and recovery is a number of disciplines. I've found that exercise is really significant, and returning to that way of life will be really good for me. I grew up in Nepal in a location at a little mission hospital that was a 12-hour walk from the road. So essentially, I was outside all the time in this amazing, beautiful place, touching creation. Like the first time I ever saw a TV, I was 7 years old. Being in creation is truly my happy place. There are seasons when I've experienced significant depression that I've lost that. And I've also noticed that now, if I am feeling low, to actually go out for a walk, to be in creation, to be at the beach is a significant lift. In recovery now, I'm moving to being outside as much as possible. One of the significant things in my mental health journey is being connected to our family dog, Blue. Blue really is an emotional therapy dog. He brings joy, happiness, and laughter to my life and to our family's lives. But I spend a significant amount of time with him daily. Walking with Blue is one of the great joys of my life. Bipolar disorder is chronic illness. It's a journey of learning to live better with it. So monitoring, knowing that there's this journey of moods going up and down and being aware. I think that's the biggest part of what I'm trying to do, is be conscious and be aware. Often those of us with bipolar disorder can get so focused on even work, we tend to overwork instead of taking that break of going for a walk or being more playful or taking some time to breathe and eat and be embodied. What I think I would want people to know is that people with bipolar disorder don't have a choice. They didn't choose this. They don't choose the way they act. This is an illness. Some of the hurtful things that have been said, or some of the extreme actions like spending lots of money during hypomania or mania. It's not all bipolar disorder, but bipolar disorder contributes to it a lot and amplifies it. So to understand that and understand that journey and not to take it so personally. It's not to say that the person who has bipolar disorder is not accountable, but it's just to have that extra grace and understanding that they didn't choose this. Sanctuary Mental Health Ministries has been significant in my own recovery. After my suicidality, I started volunteering at Sanctuary Mental Health to actually get out of the house and work, be accepted, add value, and then all the resources have been really helpful in knowing that there's this shared perspective and community that is respectful, encouraging, theologically thoughtful and engaged, and with a perspective that is inclusive. And so that's been really significant from both a faith perspective, but also from a mental health journey perspective. If you're struggling with a mental health challenge right now, my encouragement to you is to connect to your friends and family around you. Ask for help. Get outside of yourself. But most of all, I would want to say that there's hope. There's a real sense of hope. I have hope for you. I have hope for me in my journey. Even though I've walked through the darkest of days, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't mean that we get miraculously healed necessarily, but there is healing and there is a journey towards hope and towards the light.